So here's part two of the little watercolor sunset, and I'm going to come in and put some palm trees and some little mountains. And I've gotten out my fine liner brush. You can see it's a longer brush and it has a nice point to it. So that'll be nice for when we put our little palm fronds in. So my picture now is completely dry, absolutely bone dry. I've let it really set, and I've mixed up a nice black here, and it has a little bit of brown in it because I want a little warm tone. And I'm just going to come in and paint along the edge of the water here, and a little bit of some kind of mountains or little hills, just to show that there's something on the other side of this little lake that I painted here, and a little bit over here, same thing. So you want to make sure your paint is nice and thick at this point. So some little rocky cove or whatever it is. And I'm going to get a little darker black for my front here. I'm mixing some more black in so my paint is nice and thick. And I always go from the paint to a little paper towel and just take a little bit of that moisture off so it doesn't puddle on my paper. And now I'm going to paint in this whole area right here with this color that I made. And you want to think like kind of volcanic rocks or something. Whatever is growing here out of these rocks. So I like that. And now while that's drying, I'm going to put a little color in my clouds. So I'm going to go in and get some nice bright orange and a little bright orangey red color here. And I'm going to mix that in to the one I already have. And move it over so you can see. I have my little orange here, and I'm going to come in and do some really dark orange on these clouds here. Just like that. And maybe there's a little tiny touch of orange on these upper clouds here. And then in the distance, there's a few little streaks of orange here. Just want to make the sunset a little more interesting. Just like that. And I'm going to let that dry for a second and think about how I'm going to put my little palm tree in. So I want to make sure when I'm painting my palm tree in that I show a palm tree, but I don't want to block my sun. So I have to be very careful to strategically paint the curve of the trunk of the palm tree and then the palm fronds so that I don't cover that, because that's kind of the focal point of my tiny painting here. So I'm going to go back to my black, and now I've switched to this very fine liner brush. And if you don't have a brush like this, use the tiniest and pointiest brush you have. And I'm going to come in and I'm just going to think about how I want that trunk line. So I'm going to come in like that. And our palm tree is always a little thicker at the base. Just like that. And it gets thinner towards the top. And I might make it a little bigger at some point, but I'm going to leave it like that for now. Just putting a little more dark in the bottom here. And then I'm going to come in and do the palm. So when you have a palm tree, you have these branches that come out like this, all from one kind of central location. And it's going to go up off the page. And this is why I love having tape, so I can just swoop my hand right off the page. And the palm frond will always kind of hang down. So I'm going to have these little branches that kind of hang down. And it starts on that first branch that I did, and it comes down. And I don't want it perfect. because, you know, the wind has been blowing and the palm fronds get ruffled, and we don't want it to be so perfect. So some of them are a little longer and some of them are a little darker, and then towards the middle of the tree here I'm going to make a lot more thicker ones. And then the same thing over here. I start at that middle line and I'm going to pull down just like this towards my sunset, but I'm careful not to cover it up. And then the top of the branches, there's a little ones that kind of stick up like this. And if you have a brush like this, it's very fun to paint palm fronds or kind of hair. This is the brush I use when I do animal painting. And same thing for these ones up here. We want the palm fronds to come out of that middle line, and they kind of swoop and hang down a little bit. Just like that. And every time you paint one of these, it looks a little different, which is what I love about watercolor. And then I'm just going to put one more up in here where the center of the palm tree is growing out, just like that. Just play around with yours, and when you like it, then that'll be it for your little art. So I'm going to make this trunk a little thicker, and as it comes down, just like that. And I'm going to come in and do a little darker now that the back is dried. I can go over it again, darken up some of those little rocks, and the same with the front, just like that. And that is how we do our little palm tree. Now this is the crucial part, taking off the tape. So every time I take off tape, I want to make sure that I'm peeking to make sure that it's not peeling up my paper. So when you're pulling it off, if you start seeing paper there, stop. Get a hairdryer and warm your tape up with the hairdryer, and then slowly peel it off. And then it won't pull your paper up. So we want to have nice, clean paper. And like that. Just like so. I always find that this is the best part of painting, is the reveal. Mine pulled a little bit of the paper up, but I'm not too worried about it. It's when it starts pulling the whole page up. So there you have it. Watercolor sunset with a palm tree. And you can think about that Hawaiian vacation that you didn't get to go on because of the coronavirus. Sign your art, kids. See you next time.